Hello everybody and welcome to my virtual poster about the influence of ant worker aggregation on the emergence of collectively excavated nest structures. Animals are able to collectively form patterns by a mechanism called self-organization, where individuals react to simple local cues without overview of the complete pattern. Leaf-cutting ants are able to build one of the most impressive patterns in the animal kingdom, their complex underground nests. But if you look closely, they are usually only composed of two different structures, namely chambers and tunnels. So how are these tiny individual workers able to build such a nest? Here in this digging experiment, you see that larger groups excavate more, which suggests that more digging is triggered by the higher worker density in these groups. When you also look at what structures ants excavate, you first see they excavate a large round chamber, which then becomes ramified, and finally some of these irregularities develop into tunnels. This suggests a connection between the digging of a chamber at the beginning of excavation, when ant density is high, and only localized narrow tunnels when workers are more dispersed. The aim of this study was to evaluate whether the excavation of chambers and tunnels depends on worker aggregation. Our setup was as follows. We performed digging experiments with the leaf-cutting ant Acromyrmex lundii, and either a small group of 100 workers or a large one with 300 could excavate. As a starting point, they had either reduced space of a tunnel or ample space offering a tunnel as well as a chamber. The top of our two-dimensional digging arena was visually divided into a grid. We assessed worker aggregation in the central quadrant, where either the tunnel ended or the chamber was located. For better visibility of workers, we marked them with a piece of reflector tape and took pictures with flash photography every 30 minutes. The groups could excavate for 48 hours, after which the excavated tunnel and chamber volume was quantified. Worker aggregation in small groups was lower than in large groups. The peak of worker aggregation was reached earlier in the digging process when ants started with ample space. And the ant aggregation in reduced space was increased for longer periods of time until it decreases and reaches a plateau. As for the excavated structures resulting from these ant aggregations, here for chamber volume, when ant aggregation was low for small groups, or when workers had more space available, as here in the ample space setup, only a small chamber volume was excavated. While at high ant aggregation here in the reduced space setup for large groups, they excavated a larger chamber volume. As for tunnel volume, in small groups, they excavated a comparable tunnel volume, while in large groups there's a marked difference between tunnel volume excavated. Here in a situation with a low density, with an ample space setup, these ants excavated significantly more tunnel volume. There is also a marked difference in timing when tunnels are excavated. First, when workers already started with a chamber, as here in the ample space setup, then when ant aggregation was already lower, tunnel excavation starts significantly sooner. And if ants have to excavate a chamber themselves, as here in the reduced space setup, then the switch to tunnel excavation is significantly delayed. So to conclude, a high worker aggregation maintained over longer periods of time leads to chamber excavation during nest digging. A low worker aggregation results in only localized excavation, leading to the digging of tunnels. And there is a timed sequence during nest excavation triggered by ant density. First, high worker aggregation and a concentrated chamber excavation, then followed by increasingly dispersed workers and switching to localized tunnel excavation. This shows that in social insects, aggregation-mediated digging behavior leads to the excavation of different nest structures, and in last consequence, aids self-organized nest complexity.